So in the last video I showed basic rundown of all the parts that I'll be putting into this car to get it back up and going again. I did mention an issue that I thought would have been a problem, and I have confirmed since then that it was. But no big deal, because if I can get this to focus down there, I haven't had to remove much of the gearbox at all, but that's if I can even get it to focus. It's not that bad. All I've had to do is take out that part of the shroud on top of the gearbox. That is it. The front side, everything fits. There's no big issues with clearance. Even the sprocket seems to have a cutout in the interior that goes in the cab, basically specifically for it. So potentially it was designed so that does get taken out, but rather than taking it completely out so there's still some protection behind it, I have left the majority in and just cut it so it just touches and sits up against the bottom of the battery tray. So I've worked out roughly where I want the electrics to go, but don't hold me to it because that could change any minute. Leaning towards speed controller up underneath the dash, so that it'll be sitting in under the dash there, tucked away, with the capacitor, just the on-off switch sitting in here. Down the side here I have a battery elimination circuit, or UBEC, sitting inside there, running to the back to power up the receiver, and then the speed controller wire here. Main reason for the UBEC is because I've upgraded the servo. So I'm assuming it would be a little bit too much load for the little tiny battery elimination circuit in the actual speed controller, and I don't really want to go burning that out. So next step, install some links and see how the diffs actually sit. So that took way longer than I thought it would. It's compatible but not compatible with those straight links. As you can see, they're not really straight anymore. So I had a few issues with clearance, or more so the links clearing themselves, because once I've put the straight links in, I was getting no articulation whatsoever. So I've had to put bends to actually get a reasonable amount of articulation in to it without them binding up together, which I thought, great, I've got it all sorted. But then I decided I'll dummy fit the drive shafts, which I had no clearance at all for the drive shafts to come through, and took me a little bit longer than it really should have to actually figure out. But what I needed to do is turn, if you can see there, the output for the center gearboxes on that side. I was having the issue where the diff centers, or the diff pumpkins, were sitting closer to the right hand side, so basically directly in line instead of crossing over between the two. So I've had to change the front diff to the rear diff to get the pumpkin sitting on the opposite sides, and actually have a bit of angle for those shafts to go through in between all of the links and actually not bind up on them. I'm not sure if anyone else has had this issue, but I dare say if they have, they're probably sitting back having a laugh at me right now, because it took me a little while to figure out, and I don't know why. Maybe I've not enough sleep. But yeah, it's been fun so far. Now I've got all 4 shocks sorted out with the orange springs, or the softer springs, and the alloy ends as well. So next step, fit them up, make sure they actually work as far as they've got enough room to actually move, and they're going to clear everything else. So on to the next part. Righto, so the shocks are fitted roughly where I think they should be. Maybe I'll go up or down, it depends on how it all sits when it's finally actually moving, but I think I've got it where I need to. It's got a decent amount of clearance with just the tyre sitting under. It'll be a little bit higher once they're actually on and fitted up. But all my concern about lack of articulation with the links, kind of null and void, because once I put these shocks in, I think they're probably not the best selection for this car, because basically that's all the flex I'm getting out of them. So not a lot. I think I need something with a bit more travel, or the option of being able to perhaps mount that point here further forward, which there's no option there, because if I was able to mount them somewhere along here, that small amount of travel would allow that axle to move, or the diff and axle to move up further. And same with the front. If I did try in here, but it's just that little bit too far, the distance between here and here, and it pulled the front diff up too high. So it's looking good so far. It's going to be a good trail rig, but I think long term I'll be looking at some springs or suspension with more travel in them, although disappointing because I think these actually look quite good on here. So I guess on with fitting up drive shafts, getting them in tight, and then back on with the wheels finally to see how it actually looks. So the drive shafts are in, probably less than ideal with the angle that they've got on each of these, so they seem to spin smooth, so no dramas with them, but I think diff's not really suitable for this chassis. Probably if you had something with a center, diff center, rather than offset, the angles up to there would be far less and probably more suitable for these uni joints, but didn't really have much option as I've gone with the Axial diffs. They work, I've not got any issues with binding, so hopefully they don't have any issues once they're out on the track, but even with articulation they're still same deal, no dramas at all. Steering's in, up and working, or yet to be tested on the track, but seems to get full travel without any issues as far as binding of the tyres. They've got clearance all around. It's to be seen whether this is actually a 40 kilo servo like rated. I have my doubts, but we'll see how it goes. It's definitely going to be an upgrade to the, I think, 6 kilo servo that was in the car before, and wasn't really much chop with no gears left in it, so it's, yeah, getting very close. I've got the electronics mounted, just with a healthy amount of zip ties up along edges up here. Probably could have gone a bit neater, but you can't see it from my house, so it's all good. So I've got the receiver mounted just up in top here with wires just dropping down in underneath the battery tray. Probably unnecessary, but I've also added this little tube, just a bit of silicone tube with a zip tie running up the center of it, just so that it's got the receiver antenna there. I don't think it really needs it because I'm not going to be that far from the vehicle at any point in time anyway, so it's, yeah, a bit of overkill, but looks the part, suits the vehicle. So the next video, I guess, will be us out giving it a trail run, see how it actually performs. I dare say there'll be a few adjustments to be made, but I think I've got it sitting with a little less clearance than what I'll end up with after giving it a test, but we'll see how it actually goes.